Hello everybody and welcome to our live stream today where we are very excited to have 4 of our filmmakers with us who you can see here on screen with us as we speak. We are here at Pinewood Studios, but we've got our filmmakers with us virtually in the internet, is that interspace or
on the interweb
on the interweb, from our Torornto Lift-Off Film Festival. These are our Audience Choice Award winners, so we are really excited to hear more about them as filmmakers, but also more about the projects that people loved so much during the festival in both of the rounds. I'm Claire, and this is Hugh.
Hello.
We're going to be listening to our filmmakers and watching as we see their films screen muted in the background behind us, as we talk about all things really, like I said, anecdotes from the projects, and more about their careers and future goals. But I think that's enough from me. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves and your projects, starting with you, Pierce?
Hi, I'm Pierce Csurgo, and I wrote and directed the short film Oh Brother.
And Jake?
I'm Jake Burgess, and I wrote and directed the feature film I'm Sorry If I Took a Toll on You.
Fantastic.
Hi, my name is Mohammad Faizan, and I directed a documentary feature film, I Am Determined.
Amazing. And Reza?
Hi, my name is Reza Salsany. I wrote and directed What Color Do You See as Blue?
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you to anyone in the chat room as well. We've got Isaac there and Godmuck Comedy. If you've got any questions for any of these filmmakers as we discuss their films, don't hesitate to throw them in the live chat, because Hugh and myself will be sure to pass them on and get your questions answered. Equally, if we do have any sound bumps or anything like that, just give us a shout and we can then sort it out. But we should be fine. It's sounding good, I hope. I think then we should just jump straight on. And Pierce, start with you. So we're going to switch over and start the film in the background. So I think a really nice place to begin is always really, where did the inspiration for the film first come from?
The film was sort of inspired by some experiences I had earlier in life. I think filmmaking feels great when it's really personal, and then we end up finding more universal themes through those explorations. So it was sort of a combination of wanting to take some personal experiences and combine them with the creative world of making things up.
Amazing. And how did you come into film in the very first place? What was it that sort of drew you to the industry?
It's a very long, winding journey that started with me working in finance in London, actually.
Oh.
Deciding to escape that world after realizing that was not my path. And after a couple of years of traveling through Asia and the Middle East, I ended up writing a novel about those experiences, and then slowly but surely turned creative writing into filmmaking. So it's been a bit of a twisting journey, but here I am.
That's amazing. I always find it admirable when somebody has sort of like gone down one career path and is bold enough to sort of go, this isn't for me, and I want to do something completely different, especially when that's something like filmmaking, because as most of the people in the Lift-Off network always tell us, and no, it's not easy. But it's worth it, because I'm sure all 4 of you love it so much, and that's why you're here making these projects. But no, very brave to sort of change path and go down this route.
And they always say, write what you know. You have all these experiences, under your belt to one day channel into future projects. Obviously, like we've done with Oh Brother here, it's always very good.
Yeah.
But could I just write about dinosaurs for the rest of my life, because I know lots about dinosaurs. But anyway, that's beside the point.
So this is based on early experiences, because you've obviously got this sort of the student storyline and that sort of thing. So how long did the script take to write, if you're using kind of personal experiences or sort of storylines that you're familiar with, how long was the process of pre-production, I should say?
It was probably about 6 months. It's been a little while since I made the film, but yeah, from sort of memory, with short films, this was my most recent and last short film, and usually it takes about 6 months from the time of like thinking about the idea, writing it, going through many iterations of the script, and finally getting into proper pre-production and then shooting it. So yeah.
Nice. It's a really good length as well for a short, totaling 13 minutes. We always say at Lift-Off that for shorts, anything between like 10 and 16 really, like that's a good length to be hitting. Anything, Reza, it's the same with you with a 15-minute short. That's a really good time frame. Anything that's towards the longer side of a short, like 25 minutes plus, can be tricky for sort of a number of reasons really. So yeah, really good duration here. Well, tell us a little bit more about the pre-production before we go into the actual shoot itself. How did you go about things like casting?
So, sort of my short film journey was 2 shorts prior to this, and then a web series was the first thing I ever made. And after the web series and the first film that I made, I very quickly realized that I needed a producer to work with. So this was the second film that I worked with a producer on, and it made life so much easier. When you go from your initial projects where you're doing everything from sending out call sheets, to running around to production houses to pick up equipment and all this stuff. It just becomes from overwhelming to less overwhelming. Yeah, my producer Christina Wong was instrumental in casting and putting out those casting calls and organizing rehearsals. This was pre-COVID, so we were still able to hold castings in person, which I always find really nice and important. So we paired up actors and had them sort of go through some of the more meaty parts of the script, and both of the actors we found were perfect for the roles when they came in. I was like, you guys are the right stuff for this project.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just know kind of the minute they walk through the door, I suppose, with a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's true. And just because it's a topic that people always ask us questions about and people are always interested in, how did you find your producer then? Did you already know her, or how did that connection come about?
Yeah, so after having gone through, again, like a number of films, all made in Toronto, I had a relatively decent network of people that I was able to reach out to, and different actors that I had worked with, and my cinematographer that I worked with consistently on my 3 short films, just sort of asking and saying, hey, do you know a producer? And I was introduced to a few, had different conversations with them, and Christina and I really clicked. And I think she was able to understand the vision of the project, and I believe I worked with a cinematographer at Consang before, so that was also nice. A nice feeling to know that there was some rapport there as well.
Yeah, when people find those good connections, it's so interesting to see that they often go on to make more and more work with them. Which is why, and you see that in like the big films, as all the big Hollywoods, like you do get like connections or creative collaborations that just work so well for whatever reason. People are on the same wavelength, or they love the same type of films, or they just work in a really similar way. So
the work is always so much more fruitful that way. Like if the collaborators just click.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's what we like to see, you know, on our hub and everything.
Yeah, because that's part of what we say it's all about, of course. Like, by definition, the collaboration, the collaborative nature of film is just something that we absolutely love. We see a lot of filmmakers who have to wear loads of hats because with low budget, that often can be the case. You know, someone who has had to write, produce, direct, even star in it, you know. But when you then go on and have the budget or the means to sort of like expand that crew, it can be just brilliant, can't it? Okay,
filmmaking. Sorry, I was just going to say filmmaking is hard enough even when it's collaborative and people are getting along. So I think it's especially when you're doing it for fun. You know, at this level with a little bit of a lower budget, you know, it's you should be enjoying the people that you're working with.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen a few locations here already now. You know, you've had the beach, you're at the petrol station. Locations is one of the things that can really raise a production value. What was it like sourcing these different locations?
The most challenging location to source was the playground. And in Toronto, you know, this obviously getting permits works different in every place, but in Toronto, we're quite lucky in that you don't have to pay for permits. You have to apply. You have to apply for them. You know, at the city, and so we had applied for I think 3 different parks, and 2 just flat out denied us. And I think we just got really lucky in that whoever was responsible for that park in Toronto was new. So I don't think they had any experience with films coming to shoot, especially at night. This was in like a residential area. So they said it was fine, but then you know, that's kind of where the work began. And then we had to go around canvassing all I think it was like 50 homes in the area saying, hi, we're part of production, and you know we're planning on shooting here. Is this okay? You have to get a certain amount of signatures to sign off, and you know most people were fine. There were a few people that maybe had other experience with larger films that were worried that you know there were going to be 7 trucks along the road and really loud stuff going over. You know, we had 1 truck, and it wasn't a loud production. We were sort of off in the corner of the park. So yeah, that was the hardest location. The other exteriors were sort of just sourced from my knowledge of Toronto, and we kind of just sort of picked them ad hoc. The convenience store was very friendly in letting us shoot in front of there. And then the loft was a friend's apartment that's also a film, and he had rented that out before, so that was no problem.
All the stars just kind of aligned in terms of locations, which is what you really like to hear. I worked on a short once when our location cancelled on the day after we turned up with all the equipment and the cameras and the crew. Wasn't fun. We managed to find somewhere else, but yeah, it's just always easier when you know you've got it. It's set in stone. It's in writing, and you know, it's all
absolutely
swings and roundabouts. That's the expression.
Yeah.
If you it kind of relates to the playground, doesn't it? Didn't anyway.
And so you didn't have to go bribing any of the neighbours with cake or anything like that. You got your signatures. That was all right. That's interesting to know though about how the permits work in different places, because they can be so expensive in different parts, and that's why some people choose to go guerrilla style and sort of, you know, better to ask forgiveness than permission. And I'm not sure if that's the right rule to live by, but I know it works for some people. But if you can just have all of that signed off. Because, of course, it's worth noting that if you do not have all the permits and stuff in place and you are looking to get distribution, that's where things can get really tricky, because they will not want to touch any project that does not have all of the paperwork watertight. So it's always something worth considering. Tell us something that was an obstacle that you had to overcome in the film, on the shoot. I always love hearing these things because, I don't know, it's always interesting.
The one that stands out is in that the opening scene in that in the apartment. There's this disco lights that I was very happy about finding. You know, because diegetically it works with the character, and you know it added a nice feeling within the actual scene. And so we shot at night, and this was the second night of the shoot. It was a 2-night shoot, and we were in the apartment, and it's probably 4 in the morning, and we were probably halfway through the actual amount of pages that we needed to get through, and the light burned out. So we had shot all this footage with this light that was, clearly cast on the actors' faces. We had gotten, I think, our wide, and we're starting to work with our close-ups. So it's just, you just feel this sort of, the morale of the room just like drop down a few beats, because you're like, well, what do we do? We were very lucky to have a couple PAs that just hopped in the car and figured out, the nearest supermarkets that were open 24 hours. But there was like a good 30, 45-minute lull where I think you could just sort of see everyone get very tired, because it was, after not sleeping for, the first night and now the second night. And, and it's just, there was a lot of work to just kind of keep the room, the energy of the room alive. And, when we finally got the call from the PAs that they had gotten the right, little light bulb from the session, after our producer was on the phone calling, I think she called strip clubs, like she was just trying to figure out who would be open and who would have a disco light and all this. So, that was certainly the most like stress-inducing bit, because you have to make a decision very quickly. You're like, do I reshoot the scene in a way that I don't want to, and where the actors are clearly tired. Everyone on set doesn't want to have to reset and start from the top, but fortunately we waited and were able to continue to shoot. So
nice. And then on the flip side, although that that worked out in the end as well, what was like your favourite takeaway from it? Either something that was a really good learning curve, or just something that you enjoyed the most from the shoot?
I would say just working with the actors, because they just fit into their roles so naturally, and they were just such a pleasure to work with, and I find that's always such a treat. My journey, just the better I'm able to get at articulating myself with script writing, and then having a stronger vision as a director, and then working with actors who really see that and really want to dig into that. So I was able to meet up with Gabe, who played Alexander, a few times before we shot. We went out to the playground and did walking and all this stuff, and it's just like so nice to have people that are like deeply engaged on the project. And as you said earlier, like it's such a collaborative process. But it's just to see the characters come to life, and to see them understand those characters, and even bring something new that maybe wasn't intended, or just like I wasn't able to see as the writer or the director. That's just such a nice treat.
Yeah.
A great result, from casting is there's something almost euphoric in a way, is when you read stuff on paper, like lines of dialogue or character descriptions over and over and over again, and then when you sit there and see it, you're just like, oh my goodness, this is real. I love that feeling. Yeah.
No, so great. It's interesting because gritty sort of teen or student plots and stuff like this does so well in England. I can't speak for the Canadian viewers, but especially when it comes to like TV and stuff like that. I don't know if you've heard of our dramas like Skins and stuff like that. So this kind of thing has definitely got a really strong audience, so I'm not surprised people have really enjoyed it. Once we've been through everybody's, I'm going to ask you all like what you're working on at the moment, or what's coming up in the pipeline. So if you sort of keep that in the back of your mind, Pierce, when we come back to you, I'd love to hear what you're up to at the moment, but thank you. In the meantime, let's watch the beginning bit in the background of Jake's, but it's a feature, but let's get on the beginning of I'm Sorry If I Took a Toll on You. So this is going to start screening now in the background. Jake, tell us where your story with this feature began.
Okay, it was originally supposed to be this kind of pseudo sci-fi schlock kind of thing where it would involve time and whatnot, and then it got so convoluted that we threw that out, and pretty much all that stuck around was 2 people in one location. That's what we wanted to do from the start.
Amazing.
And then it turned into this weird kind of thriller thing, very much so inspired by The Lighthouse.
Nice, great film.
Yeah, that was one of the key films that inspired it. Yeah, that's where it came from. We just wanted to make it as small as we could. So
No.
we got 2 folks in there.
Yeah, no, that's super smart. We often talk about like writing to budget constraints, and obviously the main way of doing that is keeping the number of people down and the number of locations down.
More often than not, it can be so fruitful. I think especially in the case of The Lighthouse, it's just the 2 of them. They're the sole focus. There's so much more room for the characters to breathe as opposed to, you know, other people like crammed into the lighthouse, so to speak. Yeah, you know, you'd like to see it.
Yeah. And with your story, you've got a lot of emotive topics in there. What were these the themes that you always wanted to initially explore?
Yeah, there's a lot of like duality and family ties in there. I don't know who's seen it, who's watching, who's seen it, but I don't want to spoil anything like that. But
Sure.
that was also from the very beginning something we always wanted to have, even with the other weird kind of movie. But yeah, I really like where it ended up. And there's a lot of other stuff going on in the movie. Like on the surface, it's a couple people, and you know they have their interpersonal drama and whatever. They just put it, I guess. But there's a bunch of other things that are in the background, like there's stuff involving the moons, and all this kind of weird stuff that's never fully explained. Yeah.
Nice. At what point in your career has this come as a feature? What had you done beforehand?
I had done 4 other like no budget features with friends, that kind of thing. This was the first time I ever like put some money into it. Yeah, I made a bunch of shorts as well with like friends and like no budget. I've been doing that forever, but this is like the first movie that feels watchable for anyone that's not me. So that's kind of cool.
That's very honest.
That's right. I never made even this movie. I guess I didn't particularly make it for anyone. It's a little odd, but it's more so than my other movies. My other movies are just completely absurd, and I don't know if people think they're supposed to be comedies, or I don't even know if they are comedies. But this is kind of nice because you know, I'm happy to watch it with people. I don't cringe out of my skin, and I don't have to be drunk to watch it with someone. So it's kind of cool.
It's a definite bonus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you said this is the first one that you guys sort of properly got financed. How did you go about that? Are we talking sort of angel investors or crowdfunding, or is this sort of self-financed by the crew?
We did like some family and friends. It's a small budget. I mean, I say budget, but it's nothing crazy. Some family, and then we're applying to Ontario Creates to get 40% of our labor fees back. So
that's cool.
So that'll pay off some of the debts, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good system as well. Like knowing those different funds and grants and things that are available are invaluable. Unfortunately, we don't really have enough of those in the UK, but there's a few out there that people should check out. Yeah. What about the stylistic decisions then? You mentioned The Lighthouse, so you know a lot of some of those are evident. But in terms of things like the cinematography and that sort of thing, talk us through how the decisions were made.
Sure. Well, I knew that I was going to be grading it, and I also knew that I could do it a lot easier black and white. So that's one thing, I guess a technical reason. Also, homage to The Lighthouse, big time. And it suited the 3:2 aspect ratio. I think this is 2:2 percentage. Because I like that aspect ratio because it's tighter on the characters. Faces look a lot nicer. It's not full 4:3 because you shot a lot of wide shots and you never fully knew while shooting if I wanted to commit to it. But the black and white pairs nicely with that aspect ratio as well. Yeah. And you got it leaves you room for really nice contrast. Like that was the whole thing when we were lighting it. We weren't worried about color or anything like that the whole time. It was just how can we make it super contrasty and that kind of thing. So the more dramatic scenes. I'm not sure what's on right now, but some of the more dramatic scenes have that, and it's great in black and white.
Yeah, I mean, straight away as we speak, actually, she's holding the large torch, which in black and white, again, when you're talking about those contrasts, it definitely adds to like the tension and the atmosphere there. Yeah. What were you shooting on?
We shot on the Pocket 6K, the Black Magic. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we shot in 6K. It's downscaled to 4K, but we have a bunch of digital zooms because of it. So.
Sure. Yeah. And how long was the shoot?
I believe up north where we shot it was 9 days there, and then we did another day back around the city for some cutaway stuff. And then there's just some hiccups. Like there's some shots like drawers opening that I got like 2 weeks later when I realized the shotgun up there sucks. So it's my hand instead of instead of Isaac's hand and that kind of thing.
10 days though, that is not bad at all. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, we did a lot of dialogue heavy scenes. Like we did 6, 7, 8, 9 pages of dialogue in a night or something. It was a lot. And there's a lot of long takes of dialogue. There's one, I believe, that's a 9-minute take, something like that, of them talking, and they leave the frame to go outside, and you catch them in the back window, and they talk to each other there, and then they come back in. There's a lot of stuff like that, and doing it in one go was a lot easier than having a bunch of setups. And I wish I knew that ahead of time, that I wish I had the confidence to not get covered most of the time. Because I knew these long takes are going to work better.
Yeah.
And holding on these moments are going to work better. But then we waste time with setups and stuff.
It's interesting.
That's a confidence thing that comes with time.
Massively. It's interesting you say that though. We've been talking a lot to people recently about like ultra micro budget. And one of the things that a British director was talking to Natalie and myself about was that that's another way of absolutely like maximizing on it, is having not necessarily having to get coverage, really like considering the location and how you can do longer shots, wider shots that just suit that space, longer takes, because you're just saving time. Like that's how you can do a 10-day shoot, I guess.
Yeah, my least favorite scenes in this movie have all the coverage. I much prefer the scenes that just like are one long shot with stuff going on.
Yeah, no, it's just so interesting because it's not something I'd considered before at all, or really paid attention to until this director said it, and I was like, that makes sense. And it's great to hear that worked for you too. Therefore, you got lots of interesting shots. I mean, the one we're looking at right now is just panning into the bed, through the bedroom door. Yeah, nice.
I think the stuff with the torch that was so evocative and just it's you see it and you're just like, oh wow, how do they do that? It's amazing. I love shots like that.
Yeah, no, cool.
Just so fitting for the mood, definitely.
Same question that we asked Pierce. I'll probably end up asking all of you because, like I said, contingency. I love hearing some of the things that often come out of like the things that went wrong. So what was a hurdle?
When you asked Pierce this, I had to answer in mind, and then I completely forgot. Isaac lost his keys one night. He was trying to go back to his motel.
Oh no.
Late. That wasn't good. Hurdle on shooting though. Back to that really long take that we haven't seen yet. It comes later on. It was so late and we were so behind, and instead of doing all the coverage and stuff, we just decided we'll just do it in one go. There was a bunch of moments like that where we were behind or things weren't working right. The truck that we use barely worked. It wouldn't start half the time, so we were sitting around trying to turn it over, and it just wouldn't work. There's a bunch of stuff like that. And
sure.
Overall, though, it was pretty smooth. I mean, we only had 9 days up there to shoot it, so things have to go at least somewhat smooth. So they did. I'm sure I'll think of a bigger hurdle after this conversation, but in the meantime, I just have a bunch of...
Well, I guess it's also because you said this is like you're several features in, And budget or no budget, well, if anything, it's more of a learning curve with no budget. So I guess you would hope that things get smoother and smoother too. We've got Godmac Comedy in the chat. He says, I have a question. So yeah, do feel free, anyone watching this, to just write any questions in there and we'll get them answered. So if you just ask the question away, we'll direct it to Jake for you.
Are we still at the scene at the door? Because my YouTube's a bit behind. I don't know if this
there is a little delay. It's always slightly longer than I think actually, but no, we're past that now.
Oh,
so we've just got an over the
I'm
shoulder
talk
shot.
about it anyways, if that's
Do
okay.
it.
Okay. There was a lot, like we did a lot of coverage of Ryan, throughout the whole movie, and then when editing it, it was kind of it ruined a lot of the mystery when we just see his face every line he says. So on like the second pass or somewhere down the line when editing, I cut all his face except for like key moments for early scenes. So that conversation at the door, you don't actually ever see his face for like until his last line when he's like, yeah, it's over now. But then there's other scenes like in the kitchen, he's always out of focus in the background. And we did shoot close-ups for him, but we cut him and it's just, he's always out of focus. His dialogue is always turned down in the mix.
Love that.
Yeah, and just to punctuate his character, he's kind of a mystery weirdo dude who's just kind of chilling in the background, and that's kind of how he pops up in the movie too. He's just this odd fella, and so we tried to punctuate that with whatever tools we could.
Yeah, nice, that makes sense. And again, I love hearing about things like that because it's the sort of thing that like you might not have consciously clocked, but of course all of that adds up so much to the impact as you're viewing it.
For sure. And for I would say like most people who watch movies, they don't watch them consciously. Like most decisions filmmakers make, it's all about the subconscious anyways.
Absolutely. No, that's so true, isn't it? Yeah. Amazing. So a question from Emily is, do you have a favourite shot or scene? And that's a good question.
Yes, big time. Halfway through the movie, there's a scene where he sings her the song he made, and it's a very bizarre song, and that's where the title of the movie came from, because the song is called "I'm Sorry If I Took a Toll on You." And they even have a little joke like, well, that's a little long-winded, isn't it? He's like, yeah, maybe it's only temporary. And that's what when people talk about the movie, like, yeah, that's a long title. You sure people are going to want to buy that movie? I guess it's not temporary, but kind of a little meta joke there. But that seems like the turning point in the movie for me, where you kind of don't really know what's going on, and then it takes a spin for, it's this kind of movie. It's like we're in like some type of dream where she's going along letting this random guy she just met sing at her. Like, so yeah, I love that scene.
That's amazing. And interesting about the title, because titles can make or break things, especially if looking for distribution, which actually will be my last question is, what are the plans for this after the festival circuit?
After the festival circuit, I don't know, I would like to get distribution somewhere. I don't know who in Canada would want it. We have some places in mind that we would like to pitch it to, but it would be nice, maybe even in Europe or overseas somewhere, whoever wants like this little low budget artsy fartsy film, that'd be cool. But
also, if you ever want to jump on a call with us at any point, you're a member on the Network Hub, like that's partly, what we're here for. We can always just chat through some of the experiences we've done. Distribution is something we've been looking at more and more, not us as distributors obviously, but in terms of making those connections and just trying to help different people out, passing on knowledge after meetings with different sales agents and things like that. It's definitely
I would love to chat about it,
yeah, well, we'd love to, like just shoot me a message and we can always talk more about that.
For sure. Okay, cool.
But amazing. Like I said, we will loop back around after we've taken a sort of closer look at everybody's project. That's quite a dramatic shot to sort of close on, isn't it? The really tight up shot of her face there. But thank you so much for sharing those bits, Jake. And we'll hear about your future plans, and could always, like I said, speak to you about different routes post festival circuit at another time.
I'd love to.
Cool. Thank you so much. What we're going to go on to is, let's do, what colour do you see as blue? So we'll go to another short now with Reza here, and then we've got a second feature. Reza, talk us through the germination of this seed.
Okay, actually, the idea started with short news that I saw on TV, and at the beginning it was just a short idea for a small 1 minute film, but later on I started working on it, and I saw more than, I don't know, maybe 100 hours of raw, actually documentary films about the refugees from all over the world, especially from Syria.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened during 1 year. And I started rewriting it, and from 3 minutes, I expanded to about 30 minutes story, and then start the pre-production, and finally, because of some limitations, I had to rewrite it again, bring it down to 15 minutes, and finish it with that.
Amazing. So it was absolutely the topic that drew you in first, which I guess makes sense when it comes to documentary work. Is this a genre that you sort of stick to, or are you interested in all different themes and styles of film?
Actually, I like many genres, and I may do different genres, but this is something that was really moved me, and it was passion. So it came from there. So I couldn't just ignore it.
Yeah. What better place though to be so moved by different news headlines and things like that. Yeah.
I think it's a film that I think is driven by performance, sort of more than anything. You know, the two lead actresses were astounding. I mean, what was kind of the process for making those connections and contacting these actresses, really? I think it's obviously quite a heavy film, for sort of a younger actress as well. So, it must have been sort of,
The pre-production took about 3 months. And actually, my co-producer really worked with me and really helped during this 3 months. And we gathered a short amount of budget, and the part of finding the actress and actresses, it was a little bit hard at the beginning, but at the end I had to change different people because the timing wasn't right for some of them. And finally, we got really good cast, and I kind of owe them the result. They really worked really hard on this part, and I hope it had the effect that I wanted to show to the people.
Definitely. No, for sure. I mean, I know it touched a lot of people with its screening with us. And where we're sort of jumping over production, which we'll come back to, but where else has this film sort of been screening?
Screening, it mostly has been on festivals so far. And we had the first screening in Toronto, and it was before COVID, and it was with live audience. And after that, everything was online, and so limited.
Yeah, of course. Was this a big crew? Did you have a big crew working with you on this?
The total people were about around 20 something people, 21, 22 people.
Yeah.
And but I had to do a lot of parts myself because of the budgeting, and I wrote it, I directed it. One of the best Iranian cinematographer worked on it, and but for the editing and CGI and special effect, I had to do it myself. And but we had a really great casting crew, really great one. The crew really worked hard during the production, and as I said, I really owe them.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. How long was your shoot? Obviously, this is different; it's a short, but how long was the production?
The production was around 6 days.
Okay. Yeah.
But because the locations were limited, as Pierce explained, because of we had a few locations in our mind, and up to around 1 week before the production, we had all the different sets ready, and one of the major locations canceled on us.
Oh, like what happened
Yeah.
to you? Oh, so annoying.
Yeah, so that's why so many things changed just in the last minute. I had to change a little bit of the story. And but most of the locations I got it in my house, and different scenes we made my garage as a I don't know, a house in Syria, and everything happened there for the Syria locations, and the rest was in my house. So that was a little bit helping us to speed up the process, not wanting to go to different locations, but everything was almost smooth and very smooth.
So when you're doing something like this, you already mentioned that you'd been drawn in by documentary and things that you were seeing in the news. How much research goes into something like this, therefore, if it's a topic that you're very moved by? I'm guessing you had to do quite a lot of research.
Yes, as we mentioned, I watched more than 100 hours of documentaries, and I really moved by some of them because really, really heartbreaking. And but I couldn't bring all those stories in one story.
Of course.
It just moved me, and I tried to show a little bit part of it. And since the story, after I believe 16 times of rewriting, was around 30 minutes, and I had to bring it down to 15 minutes. I lost many parts, and I hope I still could keep the story together, but I'm not really happy with the result that it could be, but now, but it's okay. Still, I'm happy that we finished it. And
Is it a closed lid on this, therefore, or do you think it's something that you could come back to, you could re-edit, just because it's interesting hearing you say that? Or is it just the way, things you're not happy about it are just lessons that you'll take into your next project? Or do you think this will be revisited?
For this film, I don't think we can do anything more about it, because there were other scenes that we had to change it during the production.
Sure.
So it's lost, it's gone, the timing of it. But in the future, it gave me lots of hints because most of my background filmmaking was from Iran, and after I migrated to Canada, this is the first serious film that I made in Canada, and gave me some experience that how things work here. So it's gonna be very helpful for me for the future works.
That's really great. So logistically, it's going to help you because you kind of know the scene now in Canada. What's something from a filmmaking perspective rather than logistics that you sort of learnt from this project?
I think every work has its experience, and
Of
I
course.
learn a lot from each work I do, and I learn a lot from the production process and working with the actors. The girl that plays the Syrian teenager is my niece, and it was her first acting experience. And
That's so nice.
yeah, and we worked a lot of hours together to bring to that emotion that we wanted, and I learned a lot during this process.
Yeah. No, that's really, really nice to think then that you might also like launch someone else into the same industry that you love with a project that you both care so much about. That's amazing. That's really, really cool.
Thank you.
So, actually, because of that, I'm just begging to ask because we've spoken. Do you have anything? I'll ask you now rather than looping back around intern. What are you working on at the moment, or what's in the pipeline?
Actually, at the moment I have two ideas that I'm working on it. It's gonna be a feature length film. So
Okay.
hopefully I'm hoping to finish it within the next 6 or 8 months, and then start to go for the budgeting and preparation for that.
That sounds very, very cool. What sort of topic is the feature on?
It's mostly, I can say it's a suspense story.
Okay. Yeah. No, we won't ask for any more details. Sometimes people are able to sort of talk about it a bit more, but obviously it depends on where you're at with the project. But we would love to see your next project. No, that's really, really cool. What would you say was the difference between shooting in Canada and shooting in Iran? Like, what did anything surprise you? Was anything done really differently? For people that have maybe only shot in one place and they're looking to do co-productions or anything, what do you think are the things you need to bear in mind if you're shooting in a different country that you haven't worked in before?
The major differences I can mention is that making film in Iran is kind of hard and easy at the same time. There's lots of limitation back there, and we can do many things, especially with female actresses and locations. But I had a lot of connections. I knew lots of people back there that we worked together. As an assistant director, I started when I was 18, so I started very young, and I knew a lot of people in the industry, and that would be a major help for me to
Of course.
start any project. But here, I had to start from the beginning, from zero, but it's a lot easier here to make films than back home.
That's positive. And again, does just, you're right, emphasize the networking element of that, which I guess is one of the things we talk about when festivals are happening, just networking and meeting people. And I guess if you're doing a co-production, therefore, in a country that you don't know, that's why a fixer can come in and help with those things, because they can give you connections for crew and things like that. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your anecdotes, your stories, and project with us, Reza. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you for having me.
thank you so much. And now we'll go back to our final project, which is a feature or featurette. I'll ask you, Faizan, sort of how you define I'm Determined. We will get it on in the background. Let's start there. What is the duration? 40 minutes?
Yeah, so it's better to call it a documentary in the most
Cool.
classics.
Yep.
And it was never a documentary that I was meant to do in the beginning. So the organizer of an event, they were doing an event called FAME, which is Fashion, Music and Entertainment event for the determined people. And they approached us for a sponsorship, my company, View. They approached, and I was just going to explore if we can create some content out of this event, you know. And I was like really not convinced that we can create any content out of this event, because this is not a event for entertainment or anything in the like a classic sense.
Sure.
But when I went there to just see the rehearsal for the event, and I saw these kids, these determined kids, doing the rehearsal, walking the ramp and dancing to the tunes, I was mesmerized, because I come from India, and in India, autism or Down syndrome, these kind of, or epilepsy for that matter, they consider it as a disease, which is, and there are a lot of myths associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about people from the lower strata of the society, but also the upper class educated people. They think of it as some kind of like, if someone has an epileptic seizure, for example, they will think that it's a ghost attack. Like the person's body has been captured by a ghost or something. So coming from that, like when I saw these guys doing those rehearsals and so much enthusiasm, so much happiness all around.
Yeah.
Bang on, I was like, I'm gonna make a film of these people. And that's how I conceived this idea. And then I went back and I did a lot of research, and the facts and figures that I got after that during my research, it was amazing, because I never thought that there would be so much to explore. But I didn't want to, show the bad side of it, the problem side of it. Rather, I wanted to show the spirit, the positive spirit. So
Yeah.
if you see all the stories in the film, they're all about being positive.
Which is what people loved. I mean, in all the comments from both audience votes and jury comments, everyone picked up on just how heartwarming this is as a project. Which from a film festival perspective is also really nice, because we screen a lot of really dark content, which we love too, because film is all about exploring like serious topics, and I love a gritty drama as much as anyone. But it is really nice to have some respite in a programme and have either comedy or something light-hearted and nice. And I think that's why people love stuff like this, or it's one of the reasons why.
Just something that shows the goodness that's in the world. Or,
Yeah,
the
because there's
happiness.
a lot of doom and gloom, sadly. But no, I just thought it was really, really nice to see such a heartwarming project. So you're asked to create this project. How did you then go about it? Like, how long were you following the subjects for? Talk us through how the project came about.
Yeah, so like I said, the moment I decided I want to make this film, I went and met a lot of people who have done it. And I was collecting stories, the ideas behind. For example, I met this girl called, this guy called Dinal, right? And he had a very interesting story. He looks normal. when you look at him, you won't see that like he's got Down syndrome, or because he's on the just on the spectrum, It's just, so when I met him, I was like, he's normal. But when I heard the story behind how he became normal, that intrigued me more, So yeah, a lot of research went into this film for about 3 to 4 months. Then I started shooting with all the characters.
Yep.
And it shaped up on the go. I mean, it's just
Sure. So were you shooting this yourself as well as? Yes, you were self-shooting. What were you filming on there for?
I was using Sony Alpha 7S3. Yeah.
So not too huge, which is also really useful when you're doing documentary. Because I think. Yeah, because sometimes I think with documentary, one of the things is if you go in with huge kit and a lot of equipment, it can be really intimidating. So that can work really well. And I'm guessing you also had a really small crew. There were not too many of you, again, to keep things... Just three of you. Yeah, nice. That creates such an intimate moment as well between like the interviewees or the moments that you're capturing. And I think that shows as well in the project, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So how long in total then were you shooting different people?
I shot for about 2 months.
Okay.
Because getting dates of these stars was like really difficult.
Yeah.
These kids are like stars. So, and they all work, So,
Sure.
I had to really beg them to give me time for the interview and to shoot their story. I just wanted a day in their life to shoot.
Yeah.
And that actually built the narrative of the entire film.
Sure.
And talking about, it was a deliberate decision to keep the camera and equipment very light. Like you rightly said, I didn't want to intimidate them with, huge cameras and stuff. Also the choice of lens, I didn't want to use any cinematic lens because I wanted to hold them for focus and stuff like that. So it was very easy to go shoot it. It was more like observing their life, One of my favorite sequence from the film is when Verona is making, Verona is a character in the film, she is making coffee, And the entire process of making coffee is shown there. And she is saying it, all right, putting the water done, putting the coffee done, So she is so determined. Maybe somewhere in life somebody told her that you cannot do this,
Yeah.
And she kept on practicing it. And she's determined that, I will do it. And she's so lively. Like, she makes the coffee, she serves the customer, and then goes and dances with the people out there, So, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, nice. So you've got, one of the things I'm always interested in with documentary is you've got a lot of footage over 2 months, and then you arrive at the edit. And I mean, so many decisions, or as so many people say, that's kind of like where the film is actually made. Well, actually, to be honest, people say that with narrative as well as with documentary, but especially with documentary, because you've got an agenda behind the edit, and that's where it kind of has to come through weaving. Where do you even begin when you're sat with 2 months worth of these rushes? Like, did you have to do like a just very rough assembly, or did you already have an idea as you were kind of filming these people how it was going to be sewn together?
Yeah. So because I edit myself most of the things, but this one got edited with, by somebody else, Tushar Madhav. He's an award-winning filmmaker from India, doing some great stuff. But while I was filming, and the good part is that this event, the FAME event, that built the narrative for me, because all these guys were the participants at the event, right?
Yeah.
So I backtracked from there, and built every night. Okay, so I met them at the event, I talked to them, and I built the narrative right from the ramp and going back into their life, So I was very clear in my head how my story is, how my narrative is going to be, and accordingly I was shooting the story. So yes, we had a lot of footage, but I was clear in my head that what I'm going to put in the film. So that was
So
Too
it wasn't too overwhelming, therefore, yeah.
Yeah. And no, so but like I spent with Tushar about 6 to 7 days just to look at the footage and decide like which one goes in, which one goes out.
Hmm.
But that was the process. I mean, that's the editorial call that we take at the edit. But it was a fun process all the way, and I loved it.
Oh, that's so nice. And when the film was finished, have the people in it all seen the project now? That's always something I'm intrigued as to. Like, if you did a screening specifically for them with a premiere, or what was the response from the participants?
Oh, they all loved it. They were just celebrating.
That's so nice. Yeah.
Just for them to just look at themselves on the screen was
Ah.
and that process again, they were dancing, they were celebrating that and they call themselves like movie stars. I mean, it's not a movie you and I know, but for them, it's like being on the screen is a big thing, and they just loved it. They still enjoy seeing themselves in the film, and they're very happy that they got the Lift-Off Film Festival award for audience choice.
Ah.
It's amazing.
That's so lovely to hear. Yeah, I can just imagine what the response must have been when they first saw it.
Yeah, they do a celebration.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a rap song in the end. It has been sung by a guy who's always on wheels because he lost his legs. And this guy has done a great job with that rap. I don't know if you guys like that song. But all of them danced to that song in the end when the film finished at the screening.
Ah.
So it was a very
So you did bring them all together for one screening to see it together?
yeah.
Oh, that must have been special.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So one thing that I wanted to say, like I'm just taking this opportunity to say that the idea behind doing this film was to tell to inspire parents of like when you have a child who has got Down syndrome or autism or any kind of spectrum issues, they lose hope. What they need to do is just provide what is required to uplift their spirit, and to make them feel that they can be normal. Like Zion's story, I don't know if you remember that. Zion is a character whose mother was in London, and she was so disappointed that no school was taking her child, and she moved to Dubai to start a school wherein she bridges the gap. So she trains children to become eligible to get into a mainstream school.
Mm-hmm.
If she can do, everyone can do it. And also the governments, they need to provide
Yeah, they sure do.
facilities and things that are going to be useful for them. And I think the gap will be bridged.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking then, well, I'll just turn the film off itself and I'll get all of you up on a bigger screen again. We'll come back to you, Mohammad, and then we'll go back to Pierce and Jake. Is documentary something you're sticking with, Faizan, or is there something else in the future? What are you working on at the moment?
No, so currently I'm working on a feature film, which is also an interesting project.
Cool.
It's a comedy film.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not a film, but it's a play which I have shot.
Cool.
And it's being released in cinema, which is happening for the first time, I guess. It has never happened that you shoot a play. And I'm working on the post-production right now. So the music file just reached me. So I'll see the final product today, finally.
That's very cool. So you're sticking in like the feel-good lane. That's interesting. What's the duration going to be?
Sorry?
What will the length of the film be?
It's 90 minutes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, amazing.
It's a very interesting story. So, like, how Dubai brings all the cultures together, right? So we have an Emirati guy, like a Dubai guy, who's married to a Filipino, an Indian guy who has a girlfriend from Lebanese, like a Lebanese girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an American guy who is gay and has a wife who's Greek, and so it's a mess.
A truly multicultural film. No, I like it. Okay. Well, you'll have to send it to us and give us a look, because I'm intrigued. I like the idea of like subverting genre or crossing multimedias or different art forms. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for speaking with us today. Pierce, we didn't ask you, what are you working on at the moment, or what's next for you?
I've sort of transitioned into producing myself, so I've got a few projects that are in the feature film space that I'm working on in different capacities, and then also working on a feature film for myself. So I feel like my short film journey was concluded with Oh Brother, and
Okay.
now I've got sort of my attention focused on narrative feature films.
That's really exciting. So both producing other people's features, and you've got one that you're writing and directing, or just directing?
I'm writing it at the moment, and
Cool.
my intention is to direct it as well. But we'll see how it goes.
Nice. So at the moment it's writing, potentially, I'm guessing, with the producer hat on, things like gathering funds or working out how that's gonna all come together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, actually.
Nice.
Hopping into the producer seat as well. There's so many things to do.
Yeah, a never-ending list, to be honest. But if you get yourself some good assistant producers and an AD on board, the earlier the better, then you can sort of, what's the word when you delegate? You can delegate some of that stuff. Have a good team around you. But like you, I think the producing elements are so much fun, and it teaches you a lot as well. It also teaches you, for them, when you're on set, you've kind of like seen the preparation more. So I think it can be really useful from that angle as well. Well, best of luck with the feature there. Jake, what about you?
I'm currently early stages writing another feature that's kind of it's kind of a throwback to like 40s, 50s Hollywood musicals, but it has a similar tone to like Darren Aronofsky film, like about obsession, like kind of like Black Swan.
Yeah.
But it's about this like young actress who's like working on a period piece. This is like her first film, and she can't stop obsessing about it, where she starts to become the character in the movie, and she starts to break out into song and dance 50s kind of stuff in her personal life, but she's stuck. Her thoughts are still her own. So she's like, crying while doing this big grandiose musical number, and the movie plays it, big old Hollywood kind of thing, but interpersonally she's dying. Working on that with an artist, a local artist who's going to do all the music. But it's still early stages, so no one watching steal it. But yeah.
No, that's very cool. Also, like musical stuff or like things like that. La La Land, you had the one premiere at Cannes this year with Marianne Cotillard and Adam Driver. Like, they're popular, that style, that genre. People love it, I think, because it's what you love. It's paying homage to it, but it's also just pure entertainment. That sounds really, really cool. And Reza, we spoke about the projects that you've got that you're next working on. So you're all busy. Yeah.
Yes, we're trying to be.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for your time. Do stay in touch with us on the Hub. As I mentioned before, we're always there if you just want to jump on a call or ask questions.
Just need pointing in any which direction. We're there for you.
Yeah, anyway.
Let's chat distribution later. I'd love to.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Sweet.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Just one
Thank
point
you.
to Godmat Comedy in there, in terms of voting in the festival. If you email us on support@liftoff.network, I will get your questions answered, or someone in the team will. But yeah, the audience choice voting is for people who are watching whichever festival it is you are screening in. Thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, we will see you soon. Oh, do it.
My wife is a baker, and she made a cake for Lift-Off.
Oh my goodness me! Look at that.
Oh my god! That's amazing.
That's so brilliant.
That's incredible. So you have now got your very own Lift-Off Season Award.
I got it because I never got the trophy. So my wife said, "Okay, I'll make the cake for you." So
Oh my
I was
god,
really excited.
that is amazing. In fact, if you could take a picture of that, Faizan, and email it to me, I would love it.
I'll do that.
Yeah, it seems a good chance to say this is the Lift-Off Season Award. This is our 3D printed trophies. Anybody who has screened in any of our festivals is eligible for a nomination. We give out nominations after each festival, but then there's still a bunch that are awarded in December after our final festival, which is London. So any films that we've screened could still be in the running for a nomination in any of the 14 categories. They're not cake ones that we hand out, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, we could always switch out those trophies and just hand out cakes shaped like the Lift-Off logo instead.
Yeah, but then the filmmakers wouldn't get them because we'd all just be eating them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Huge shout out to your wife, Faizan, for cooking that. What an amazing baker. Well, thank you so much. That's such a fun note to end on.
She is also the creative producer of my film.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
A woman of many talents.
Thereof.
Thank you so much, guys, and we'll stay in touch with you all.
Have
Take
a nice
care.
rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Everyone.